Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Great deal going on. NBA Finals are here. Put in $5. If you're a new customer, you get $150 in free plays. Doesn't even matter who wins. All right, with Brad Ellis, I'm Mike Luke. Brad, today is a big day for Arizona basketball fans on a number of fronts. Dalen Terry, obviously, Leonard Miller. But I wanted to ask you, as the historian that you are, I can't remember the last time a player went up against the wire the way it is right now with Dalen Terry, where really nobody knew if they were coming back or not.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, obviously, I think Jason Gardner was one of those first years where you could test the waters and come back. We all thought he was back just because he was born in the wrong decade. If he was born 10 years earlier, he's a first-round draft pick. Right. But unfortunately for him, he was born, when they didn't want 5'10" shoot-first point guards. I'm sure there's others I'm not thinking of, but that one seems to be the one I seem to remember it kind of going down the wire. I think everyone else we knew they were most likely gone. Right. I think it came down to the wire on announcement day. I know there's a lot of speculation that Stanley Johnson wasn't going to go. But once he said he was going, there was no turning back. Same thing with Aaron Gordon and some of that. But I can't remember a whole lot of guys testing the waters that we didn't have an inkling one way or another. Because, a lot of guys tested the waters that shouldn't have, but we knew they were gone. Right. And your Jarrett's, your Comanches. But, I can't remember many that were that close.
Right. And let's be honest. Yeah. Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate you, my man. And let's be honest about it here too, is that Dalen Terry this isn't, losing a guy that could be, Dalen Terry, I think, is kind of the difference between a national title contender and a team that is probably top 25, but I don't know that they necessarily have the horses or the athleticism. So this is a massive decision for Arizona fans here, Brad.
If Dalen Terry goes, then the hope for Arizona fans is that Adama Ball is ready to make the leap. Right. What's your take on Adama Ball, by the way? I think he's going to be pretty good. I don't know if it's going to be this year. I think from a scoring standpoint, he may be a better player than even Terry now. Problem is Terry does all those other things. I'm not sure. And again, I'm not going to count Ball out, especially from being a distributor, because again, he played a lot of point guard in France. But physically, he's not where Dalen Terry is. He's not the defender that Dalen Terry is. I severely doubt he's going to be the rebounder. But I think Ball can be very good. And if Terry does not come back, then Ball becomes a pivotal figure for this team.
Yeah, and then another guy, too, that's a pivotal figure is Leonard Miller, obviously. I mean, he's put out that basically he's got to decide today between the G League, Arizona, and Kentucky. Doesn't sound like Kentucky's really in it anymore. But Arizona, though, I'm never going to be the guy that's going to tell a kid like what he should do, where he should go. But at the same time, though, if Dalen Terry were to leave, there's a nice little spot there for Leonard Miller to develop at that small forward position, with some pretty talented players around him.
Yeah, and according to Adam Zagoria, the decision could happen while we're on the air. He's within the half hour. Leonard Miller is interesting because A, he's immensely talented. B, he gives Arizona a lot more flexibility again. Again, you can go with him at the 4 and go small. Right. Arizona doesn't necessarily need to do that with the bigs they have. And you can do some of the same things with Terry, but Miller's a legit 6'9", 6'10". Right. But he's a small forward. He's got a wing skill set, but you throw him in the Pac-12 where there aren't a lot of quality bigs, and he could really cause some problems. Again, he's not as versatile. At least I don't think he is, because it's so hard to tell with these players. You don't get to see a real feel for the game in AAU ball and 10-second video clips. But he's physically bigger and an explosive athlete. So, yeah. And if for some reason you can combine both and bring both to Tucson, then suddenly, you're putting them in that top 3, top 4 preseason thing. I don't think there's the ability to do both. But if you can, that's immense for Arizona.
Are Arizona fans overlooking, and I was thinking about this yesterday during the preparing for the show, are Arizona fans kind of looking past what Azuolas Tubelis is? Because it feels like people are like, oh, yeah, he's good. But, I mean, honestly, Brad, shouldn't Azuolas be a guy that's going to get 17 points, 7 or 8 rebounds. I know that he had the really bad end of the season, but this is still a guy that was an all-conference player and certainly projects to have conference player of the year capabilities.
I would say so, because you look at it, I mean, people forget that in the Pac-12 tournament final, he had 20 right. and 11. Now, granted, he only scored in double figures a few times down the stretch, but he had a stretch of games from the 3rd of February to February 26th where he didn't score anything less than 14.
Right.
And his worst rebounding, I think he had some 5 rebounding games, but he was a double-double guy. So I don't know if he can get you 17, but he was 12-something his freshman year. He was 13-something last year, even with the late season swoon. So at the very least, he looked to me like a 14-7, 15-7, maybe 16-9 guy. But yeah, I expect big things from him, assuming he can stay healthy. And I don't know the validity of this, but there's a lot of rumblings all of a sudden now that he was maybe sick in the NCAA tournament. Right. There was a little bug going on around. Again, I don't know the validity of that, but I've seen it in more than one place. Of course, as we know, with Brad Pitt at Sullivan's Steakhouse, all it takes is one.
Rumors go wild.
Patino's wife.
Brad Alice, by the way, tell people about that story real quick. You guys shut down Sullivan's Steakhouse.
No, that was you and Kev, I thought.
Oh, it wasn't me and Kev. No, it must have been Rob. No, I think it was Rob and Kev.
Rob and Kev. Basically.
Because I wasn't there yet. I just heard about it.
Okay, I thought you were there then. Basically, if for anyone who remembers, there was a rumor that Rick Pitino was house hunting in Tucson during the Sean Miller hunt. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I still swear people who say that maybe the wife was looking because that's right about the time he had the little incident in the Italian restaurant. But regardless, that rumor has been around then. So sometime before you started at a station whose numbers, end with a 1 and with a 0 and began with a 1, Kevin Woodman, I guess it was Rob. I thought it was you, but we're making fun of the people who are like, no. Like my buddy installed the cable at Patino's house. Right. And Kevin said something to the effect of, and I'm going to go have drinks with Brad Pitt at Sullivan's Steakhouse. And by that night, like, reporters from like K-Gun and things were trying to find out to confirm if Brad Pitt had been seen at Sullivan's Steakhouse. Kevin just made it up. Right. But the funny things happen. I once, I've told the story that when Arizona was recruiting Lowry at the time, I was working for 247 Sports, and they didn't have his school in Finland, but I needed to make a profile so we could write stories about him. So I just picked the international school in Paterson, New Jersey, because it said international, and I could then call, you have to call the national guy to create. Right. Well, one of the local media guys ran that Miller was going, because it was reported that Miller was going to make the visit. And they said, he's going to go visit him at Patterson's school in New Jersey. He's only going to New York. And, he went to Finland. So it's amazing how quickly things spread and misinformation can spread. So, again, it's also amazing how some big stories never get out either.
Let me ask you a little bit about, I got a comparison for next year's team, but again, DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX, put in $5, NBA Finals are here, you get $150 in free plays, 21 and up, Arizona only, gambling issue, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, they'll get you all taken care of. Next year's team, I think, especially if Dalen Terry doesn't come back, is going to be built off the height and the abilities of guys in the low post. Reminds me a little bit of 95, 96, at least on paper, going into the year, where you lost a ton of scoring with Damon and Rayos that previous year from 94, 95. And then you got Ben Davis, you got JB, and those were kind of, obviously Reggie was in there as well. Miles was young, but that was going to be kind of the hallmark of your team. Now, obviously JB is ineligible the second semester. Arizona still is able to play, but I see a little bit of that. I think that Arizona is going to try to really beat teams up front if that's who you have coming back next year without Dalen Terry.
Again, a lot of that depends on I think the two guys to me that really could swing Arizona's season one way or another is, as we mentioned, Adama Ball and Pelle Larson. Mm-hmm. Can Larson make a leap? Right. Because if Dalen Terry does not come back, at least one of those guys is most likely starting, if not both.
Right.
So those guys have to play because we kind of know what Kerr Kriisa is. Can Kerr Kriisa be a better version of himself this year? Absolutely. That's the one thing when anyone does, it seems like a lot of people, I don't want to say anyone, a lot of people do these college projections, football as well. We keep seeing the people, well, Arizona won one game last year. How are they going to be better? Well, A lot of the bad players are gone.
Right.
B, they got a lot of new players. And C, players get better.
Right.
All you have to do is look at
there's a progression that's in place.
Yeah. So Pelle Larson, Kerr Kriisa, those guys are not stagnant. Now, we also just got through the Sean Miller era where a lot of guys came to Arizona fully formed and didn't get much better. But that's the whole point of the Tommy Lloyd era. What's Tommy Lloyd's reputation? Development. What's Murphy's reputation? Development. Why is Ricardo Foy here? Player development. So, again, it's hard to say what Arizona's going to be. And all you have to do is look at Dallin Terry, how he evolved over the course of last year. And maybe the biggest, no pun intended, but yes, pun intended, Omar Ballo. Look at what he was week 1 compared to week 30 or whatever it is. He was a completely different player. So, yes, you want Dallin Terry back. You want Leonard Miller. But, I'm not ready to count out that Pelle Larson doesn't suddenly become
what's Pelle Larson? That's a good question. What's Pelle Larson's upside? Like, if Pelle Larson reaches his apex, what is Pelle Larson?
Can he be a 13-point-a-game, 40% three-point shooter?
Yeah, who actually is an underrated defender out there as well. I kind of think that as well. He's a guy that, again, I was wrong. I spent the entire year basically saying my bad, Pelle. But, at the end of the year, he could play. The only thing I really don't like is, and I don't like him when he's trying to get creative with the dribble. 1 dribble or 2 dribbles max, go. But I think you look at it, 13 points, I think, is more than I think that's a reasonable expectation.
That's ceiling. I mean, yes, I'm not projecting that. I don't even know if he can get to the ceiling this year.
Right.
He's at least I'm so confused with the COVID thing. I think he has 3 left.
He's got 3 years of eligibility left. Yeah. Correct.
So he's a guy who could play 5 years at Arizona. I think upside. I hate player comparisons, but to me, if he gets a little stronger, can't he be a shorter Buechler?
Buechler which isn't a bad thing.
No, I mean, Buechler was so physical that he had that jump step into the lane where you just couldn't guard it. And I don't know if Larson will ever be that guy, but Buechler was a good shooter, a good rebounder, a good playmaker. I mean, he's really a forgotten player at Arizona. We always joke about Chris Mills, but Buechler gets forgotten as well. And if he had not, won the titles with the Bulls, I think he'd be completely forgotten, which is bad because he was in contention for Pac-12 Player of the Year as a senior. I don't know if Larson can be that good, but there's some similarities there. Again, Larson's a couple inches shorter too, but he's better athlete than I think we give him credit for. I think you see Euro and you automatically think
You think kind of stiff. You think, but no, he's a good athlete. And the thing about it, too, is that he moves well laterally. He's a guy that you don't just go up and just go right by because he can cut you off with his strength and from the angle perspective.
So there's a lot to go before I project him that kind of player. But I think he certainly showed us by the end of last year when he was healthy, he's a pretty darn good player. And there's a reason he won Pac-12 Sixth Man of the Year.
All right, Saguaro great Sean Seeley. What do we expect from Ballo next year? Starting, average, what are we looking at? I'm going to say that he starts, and here's why. Everybody knows, and that Visar is a very talented player. Visar is also still about 195 to 200 pounds. Ballo, again, maybe I'm overrating Ballo to a certain extent, but Ballo, I think, especially because I saw him on campus, and I said this the other day, about 10 days ago, Ballo's lost some weight. He's never going to be the guy that comes out and he looks like Andre Iguodala physically or anything, but he's lost some weight. I'm curious to see if he can make that next step. But right now, I would put Ballo as the starter with Visar getting a lot of kind of swing minutes at both positions. Am I crazy there, William?
No, you're not. Again, I don't know. A lot of it depends how good is Visar. Frankly, how good is Tubelis?
Right.
Well, I think Tubelis is going to have a great season. there's a scenario there at least where Visser and Balo start. I think the thing you like about Balo is he's not only unique to Arizona, he's kind of unique to the Pac-12. There aren't many guys with his size, his strength, and his skill level. And I know people are like, skill level. He's way more athletic than I think we give him credit for.
For sure.
In large part because he played next to Koloko last year.
Right.
Who's wildly athletic. But Balo, for a guy who's at times pushed 300 pounds of good and bad weight, for a guy who is as strong as he is, he moves fairly well. Can have a soft touch at times. So, yeah, I think it's a combination. I think Balo could be a guy who averages 11 and 10, 11 and 9 if he gets the opportunity. And I don't think it's incumbent on him to earn the opportunity. I really think it comes down to how good Visser is. And if Visser's ready to play and put up big numbers, then that knocks Balo back to the first big off the bench, which is still not a bad place. At the best case scenarios, yeah, he becomes a 27 a game starter, but there's going to be minutes there. Because right now, what we do know is it sure seems like that Dylan Anderson is the clear number 4 big, who's probably out of the rotation most nights.
Right.
Unless you have foul trouble. And again, things can change if, Phillip is better than we think he is. It could change if Leonard Miller comes. But right now, at worst, Balo's a 22-minute-a-game big man. And he could be a 30-minute-a-game big man.
All right. One thing, though, that you don't have to worry about is the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. William, who do you like in the finals? You like the Warriors?
I like the Warriors.
Yeah, I do too as well. But you know what? If you think that we're smart, go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Even if you don't think we're smart, go there. Put in $5, get $150 in free plays if you bet on the finals and you're a new customer. All right. I'm going to sign off a little bit early here today, Brad, but I did want to talk to you real quick about softball because, I was blessed. You were blessed in that I didn't even know that really it was capable that other teams were capable of consistently winning championships other than Arizona softball, maybe UCLA to a certain extent. But this job that Caitlin Lowe and her team has done has been remarkable. You started out 0-8 in conference play, and now you're in the College World Series. Conversely, ASU was 10-0, and they're not in the College World Series. So, again, who knows how it works out big picture, but you really got to tip your cap to the gumption that the women have shown out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say a little quick funny story. So, been watching a lot of softball, been watching, that leads into other sports. So, finished watching U of A. I think it was the first game against Mississippi State, and the North Carolina Northwestern women's lacrosse game comes on. And Northwestern's dominating. And I turn it off with 7 minutes left. I think they're up 6. Find out later that night watching the ASU softball game that Northwestern lost.
Right.
They dominated.
Right.
So then I'm watching game 3 of Northwestern ASU. And ASU's up 5-0. And I turn it off. And find out later that night that Northwestern this time won. So 2 of the biggest comebacks and or collapses in Northwestern history. And I missed them. Not that I'm a Northwestern fan, but interesting. That being said, to me, the biggest thing for Arizona, and let's credit Taryn Moaz, just how good they've pitched.
Right.
Arizona was, when they won those games early, when they finally started winning, they were winning 8-5, 11-9. It looked like men's slow pitch softball scores.
Right.
And all of a sudden they get to Missouri. They give up 3 in the first, but put up 8. And then the pitchers were lights out from that. I think 2 shutouts.
2 shutouts.
And then they go into Stark Vegas, and I don't think they gave up more than 2?
And that was always the hallmark of Candrea's teams. I think people remember the Laura Espinosas, players like that. But it was always the pitcher that could essentially pitch 9,000 pitches per day or whatever. They would always carry them.
People don't remember. There was one year, and I can't remember the 2 pitchers. It was when I was either right in score right after, and I want to say it was Carrie Dolan was the starter, and or maybe she was the backup. I can't remember. One of their pitchers was something to the effect of 20-2 with less than 1 ERA.
Right.
And the backup number 2 pitcher, who was like a third-team All-American, was say 17-4 with a 1.1 ERA.
Right.
And didn't pitch in the postseason.
Right. That's just how much talent it is.
Yep.
And, you know, but also too, like, I think a lot of people said, you know, is the game past Candrea Bai? Is it past? No, the game got more popular because you used to, and you just hit the nail on the head. Believe it or not, I never really looked at softball rankings coming up. But at the same time, though, you know, I could take a guess that if Candrea targeted 10 players, he's probably getting 7 of them or something to that effect. Whereas now it's a lot more spread out.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, when Candrea started coaching, there were 100 elite players in the country, 75. And Arizona and UCLA split them for the most part. Michigan would grab a few. Candrea helped popularize the game because he, added the slap hit. I mean, people forget Larry Ray all but invented the slap hit, who was which opened up the game. When I was in high school, late 80s, mid 90s, your elite softball players looked like throwers. They were thick. They were power hitters. It was corner infielders with strong arms. There weren't a lot of speed. Suddenly, it opened up the game, ironically enough, for the Caton Lowe's of the world. 5'5", sprinter who's a little too short to be a hurdler, a little too short to be a point guard, but can run, you know, whatever the equivalent is.
But can get on the bases 85% of the time.
Exactly. Secondly, he brought in players who brought a little glamour to the game. Suddenly, it was kind of cool to be like out there with your pink glove and your. At the same time, he was the first to put pants on the players. And this sounds stupid, but I've actually talked to people who have said suddenly it was cool for your dad to be your softball coach because you weren't wearing Bobby Sox uniforms. You were and you had a lot of guys who never coached softball before. A lot of those elite club teams run by old baseball coaches. Candrea, old baseball coach. So Candrea changed the face of the game in so many ways. But that added, instead of now 50 good players, there's 300 good players. Right. And they're spread across the nation. And then, you know, Tennessee goes in and they see all those California players. And now there's good players all over the country. So Candrea, it didn't pass him by. He hurt himself, actually. He was the
victim of his own success, the way he popularized the sport. All right, got a bunch of stuff to get to today, but Brad, can't thank you enough for hopping on right here again. My DraftKings pick of the week is the Warriors to win it all. Do with that what you will. Brad, you got a podcast? You got anything coming up here anytime soon?
Yeah, they'll be coming up. Just so much going on with kids sports, and now the kids are home. I'm like shushing them as we do this, but yeah, I'm gonna have a few a week coming up here. As we get these announcements, I'll do reaction podcasts.
And where can they find it? Where can they find them?
You know, it's on right now. It's just on Apple, Anchor, and Spotify. But check me out on Twitter, WSR Brad. I put up links to all of them, and appreciate people who've been patient during the hiatus. Unfortunately, I had a situation similar to yours, and with your guy, and then kids sports and school and life. But hopefully, we'll be back at it here.
All right. He's Brad Allis. I'm Mike Luke. Thanks so much. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.